Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Glasgow, of course, has a massive rat problem. We covered this story a few days ago, and Susan Aitken, the beleaguered leader of Glasgow Council, said it wasn't that there was more rats, it's just that they've become more visible for some reason. You know, presumably putting on little top hats, carrying canes and dancing down the street. But that's not it. There actually are more rats. We know this, and we know why. We're going to have a look at this to see why the explosion in the rat population and why they're doing sod all to fix it. Indeed, they're not even capable of fixing the problem because of a problem that they've created elsewhere. But this is the SNP. What do you expect? Perfection? Anyway, we'll have a look at this and see what the problem is. Here goes. So, Glasgow, low emission zone blamed for rise in rats as refuse vehicles are banned from the decaying city centre. Now, they bring this rule in and they were saying, no vehicles over a certain age. They're trying to claim it's for clean air, but obviously it isn't, because otherwise you'd be doing it on emissions, not age. And anyway, they brought it in without checking how many of their own vehicles would be caught up in the, in the resultant ban. And of course, there was hundreds upon hundreds of vehicles, some of which, of course, were refuse vehicles, the big bin lorries. And they can't get in, and so the refuse just sits there. And as we know, our little furry rat friends absolutely love bins and refuse and waste. Provides them with so much food. SNP group leader Susan Aitken insists the pests are simply more visible, which we discussed. And workers are saying that is not the reality of the situation. The workers on the ground are saying, actually, no, it isn't that they're more visible. If you're seeing a lot more rats, it's because there is a huge number of rats. There is a lot more rats. Glasgow's controversial low emission zone is helping fuel the increase in the rat population in the city centre, it has been claimed. The union GMB Scotland says many refuse vehicles fail to comply with the strict LEZ rules, leaving them out of the busiest areas of the city. And so, of course, during the day, all the stuff builds up overnight. Shopkeepers put the rubbish out, expecting the bin lorries to come and take the rubbish. And, of course, there's no one there to do it because you can't get the lorries down because they haven't got the lorries. It's almost as though they planned it that way, isn't it? Only you can tell they didn't plan anything. The union says cuts to street cleaners are also leading to more infestations, and warned bins were going unemptied due to a lack of staff. Despite SNP Council leader Susan Aitken's claim that rats were simply more visible, which they're quite clearly not. Well, they might be more visible, but I'd say it's only because there's more of them. It's not that the existing rats have suddenly decided to poke their head out and wave at you. GMB's Glasgow branch convener Chris Mitchell says there's a crisis in the collection and that drastic cuts under the nationalists had seen the city fall into decay. Yeah, cuts for some people, but not for others. His comments came on the same day it was revealed that the council had netted 600,000 from the low emission zone in fines, with the total number doubling in July compared with June, which we covered that story yesterday. This was when it was first enforced. The zone bans vehicles of a certain age from an area roughly equivalent to the city centre in a bid to cut air pollution. Although what the age of a vehicle has got to do with its emissions, nobody is yet able to say. Certainly not Miss Piggy. She hasn't got a clue. Over 600 Glasgow City Council vehicles are non-compliant, with the local authority bosses having to hire vehicles for certain jobs, more expense. Mr Mitchell himself, a refuse collector, said dozens of refuse vehicles were non-compliant, which was making it harder for workers to keep the city clean. And once you've got a dirty city, once the bins aren't being collected, of course, Mr Rat is going to have a hell of a time. And when Mr Rat is eating well, there'll be lots of little baby rats. He said the council cuts had also played a massive part, with the number halved in the past 10 years. He told the Herald, there is nowhere near enough vehicles and they have had years to sort it out. They are trying their best, but they have a fleet that is at the best part of 15 years old. Of course bins won't get emptied. You cannot empty a bin without the vehicle. And of course they haven't got any vehicles, they're all off the road, or the ones that are on the road can't go in. It's all her fault. Because of course, SNP, morons. He said there is a rat infestation and the reason is because of the cuts. The rats are everywhere. Rat infestation is rife across Glasgow. It is nonsense to say the rats have only become more visible. They're there because of the cuts. And he is absolutely right. When you stop putting the money in, when you stop putting even street cleaners out with their little barrows, remember the old guy with the push barrel thing, and they'll be street cleaning with things. They've cut them. They can't get the lorries in to pick up the big rubbish. It's just an explosion of rubbish, and therefore an explosion, of course, of rat numbers. The Scottish Government has to admit that Glasgow is in decline. Services are struggling, and they must give the council more money. But unfortunately, the council, for some reason, thinks it is not in decline, when it clearly is. He says, we have a rat infestation and a problem with street collecting and a problem with refuse collecting. The whole city needs a deep clean and major funding for that. It is the only way the council can get over this. Right now, we have little resources for street cleaning. The whole city is in decay. Glasgow needs a recovery, but there needs to be money. There was over 10,000 rat infestation complaints made to the council. So that's 10,000 complaints made just last year. And that's 10,000 complaints. How many more rats will there have been that people went, oh, for God's sake, we've got rats, but not made the complaint? Be a lot more. It will be absolutely tons. And they're doing sod all about it because there's nothing they can do unless they are willing to go out and buy a new bin lorry, or maybe half a dozen. And these things ain't cheap. They're like £250,000 each. You're going to have this problem. This problem is going to stay for a long time. And of course, where there are rats, there's diseases, there's all sorts of problems. It's a public health hazard. And therefore, they must be legally obliged to do something. All it takes is someone to catch some disease or whatever and sue Susan Aitken personally for failing to tackle this massive public health issue. And I'd love that to happen. Anyway, we've dealt with that. I shall round this off, which will come up and finish the video. Now, Susan Aitken is claiming that we don't have the cash at the moment. We've raked in 600,000 from the ULEZ, from the LEZ fines, but they don't have the money to go and buy new bin lorries. So you have to ask, what the hell are they doing with all that extra money? Well, of course, they're just spending it, aren't they? They're spending it elsewhere. And in the next video, we're going to have a look at what they're spending it on. Well, more who they're spending some of this money on. So we'll have a look at that. So just a heads up to the next video. So if you don't want to miss it, please hit that subscribe button and help spread the word. But also you won't miss the next one, which is also about rats in Glasgow, but a different kind of rat. Anyway, I've finished there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you're seeing here on the channel, do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and stay well away from rats. Bye.